It's day 118 of this honeydew germination experiment. So as you can see, the leaves are getting bigger, in fact much bigger it seems, because I've been watering a lot lately. So I probably had these plants underwatered for a really long time. You know, the alternative was to risk killing everything through overwatering. So there are only 2 dead leaves on that side of the pot, you know, in the center of the screen, and everything else is looking pretty robust. So I bet if I were to unfurl this leaf, it would easily meet or exceed 10 centimeters long. And you know, likewise, it could probably reach 10 centimeters wide, but because this leaf is so curled, the measurements seem to be kind of skewed. And this is also a pretty big leaf, so I definitely have noticed a lot of leaf growth. That's a big leaf right there. A lot of these leaves have grown big. They're about similar in size, maybe not as big as the one I just measured, but you know, a lot of these could be around 8 to 10 centimeters in diameter. So that's a lot bigger than it was before. You know, before it's maybe 7 centimeters at the biggest. You know, 6 to 8 is probably the range. And since I've been giving these a lot of water lately by refilling the tray 2 to 3 times in the last week, then I think that's made a lot of difference. So I've been having a big fungus gnat problem still. I thought the sand on the surface would take care of it, but it's only gotten worse over time. I'm killing several of those things a day. They're not all, you know, forming a dense cloud or swarm, you know, on the undersides of these plant leaves, but you know, the surface problem has been taken care of, but they're still hanging around. I can still find some that like to buzz around my plants. I think the real problem is this design in the plant spa. Basically, there's an empty tray underneath that holds water, and this water soaks into the bottom of the soil, you know, and it also gets into the soil just by water vapor kind of absorbing into the soil from the slits in the bottom. So you can refer to earlier episodes if you want to see how the plant spa tray looks like, or my sweet potato germination experiment in the very first episode. I have a detailed, you know, demonstration and illustration of what goes on in the structure of this pot. So anyways, I took that old 7-year-old Bayer Advanced insecticide, I stuck the nozzle in this hole, and I basically sprayed 10 times. Then I filled it up with more water, and what I noticed were a lot of fungus gnats kind of escaping out of there. So I think it's become a standing breeding ground for fungus gnat adults. So hopefully by, you know, letting some insecticide-laden water soak into the soil in the bottom, that'll kill off all the larvae for the next generation and drive away all the adults. So the adults have scattered, and some of them were just kind of buzzing around like crazy and seeking shelter. So the insecticide is no longer potent, then no harm done. I can just go buy something fresh, hopefully specifically for fungus gnats. If it works, it works, even if it's even if this insecticide has half-life. So we'll see what happens over the next few days. So in the case of this big leaf I just measured, there are still these wrinkles like here and here. So basically, I thought adding water would solve this problem, and it seems to have in some places, but it might take a while, a few days, if ever, to just kind of make all these leaves reach their maximum potential size and look more normal and not be wrinkled. So if you look here, you know, this one only has 1 wrinkle. Some of the newer leaves look fine. Let's see, yeah, some of these look fine. Other ones, more older ones, they might not, you know, recover, so to speak, but as long as they get bigger, I think these wrinkles should smooth out a little bit. This leaf looks pretty good. This one is kind of, they're all wrinkled in different ways, I guess. So, I mean, some have it, some don't. But as long as the leaves are healthy and these wrinkles don't affect their performance or function, then I'm fine. So this is the shoot apical meristem of vine 1, and you know, robust growth is still occurring. And this is the shoot apical meristem of vine 2. It's trying to make another lap, kind of induced by me. So every time these things get too tall, I kind of knock them over and encourage growth in a ring pattern. So let's see. You know, I'll just give it that baby step there, and when it gets a little longer, it'll be easier to push over. So the tendrils are extremely long, but yeah, everything's going quite well lately because of the you know, newfound water that I've been introducing in the bottom. So I imagine these plants will be needing a lot of water as time goes on, because now there are so many leaves. So out of each leaf there's a transpiration pole, basically, with water evaporating from little microscopic holes in the underside of these leaves. And you know, plants also respirate a little bit too, so whenever they're open their stomata, they'll lose a bit of water through the form of water vapor. So plants basically need a lot of water for photosynthesis and their breakdown of carbon dioxide and the conversion of said carbon dioxide into new carbohydrates. And this is plant vine 3, and that's just a drop of water I shook on it a few minutes ago when I was rewatering this plant. So this is vine 3, and its development hasn't changed all that much since a few days ago. I guess the leaves are getting bigger, but I believe all three of these plants, including especially this one, you know, have roots that go all the way towards the bottom of the pot. From my early days of honeydew germination, I learned that the roots grow very quickly, and what you see on the surface should pale in comparison to the biomass in the root ball. Okay, it's day 120 of this honeydew germination experiment. So we've come a long way, and growth is now very robust, especially since I've been watering more. For example, if you look at this leaf or this leaf, they're pretty big compared to what I'm used to seeing. And no doubt everything will get a lot bigger over time. So I applied some of that pesticide Bayer Advanced in the water tray, I think 2 days ago, or was it earlier than that? But anyway, like the very next day, there were no fungus gnats buzzing around, you know, while I was at the bathroom mirror, you know, while I'm lying in bed, you know, looking at my cell phone, etc., while I'm at my computer, or you know, or doing anything in the kitchen. There were just fungus gnats buzzing around all over. So I don't even see fungus gnats buzzing around now in any 3 of my pots. So that's a really good sign. But these plants are growing really big, too big for their britches. You know, now that I'm watering a lot too, the growth has accelerated. So this is a vine, and yeah, it's pretty much a mess. But I think it's time to move these outside because we're approaching summertime. It's late spring already, and it should be plenty warm outside. The main thing is there's just not enough space indoors for me to manage these plants in a small apartment. So if I move them outside, you know, I could just let them go wild, and I will stop, you know, looping these vines, the shoot apical meristems, clockwise, and having them form this, you know, cyclone of greenery. Okay, it's day 124 of this honeydew germination experiment. So these solar reflectors have helped a lot in the past, and I don't know how much longer I'm going to keep them though. They kind of get in the way. I might have to modify them so they can stand up better on their own, but they're sort of like pressing against some of the leaves, you know, like over there. So overall I would say they're a huge benefit. I'm not ready to just take them away just yet. There's still plenty of water in this tray. I've been topping it off every few days, and the foliage just looks really robust and healthy now. These leaves are very beautiful green color, the way they should be and should look. And previously I had this wrinkling problem, but I think that's diminished to some extent with all this watering that I've done. I think they just weren't getting enough water before. So that's a good example of a leaf that's wrinkled badly, but you know, with additional growth I think they can sort of grow out of that and recover. So there's going to be a lot of tendril activity for sure, but I pretty much stopped rotating these plants around in a clockwise pattern around this pot. So what that means, of course, is that they're going to start growing towards the sun and spill out of this pot. And at this point, since I have this whole setup on the balcony, I'm perfectly happy to let them do so. For instance, this is the meristem of vine number 3. And if you trace that to the middle, you'll see where it regenerated from originally. So this is the meristem of plant number 1. And what I just showed you earlier is the meristem of plant number 2. This is the meristem of plant number 3. So I just pulled this leaf in. It was kind of folded behind this plastic column and pressed between the reflector, and I think that'll help a little. That's the problem with having a bunch of support columns and structures nearby, is sometimes the leaves have no space to grow in.